The Spy Kids franchise has taken on a sort of revered but faintly recalled mantle for a few late millennials. When the first movie came out, I was 7 years old. Or to be more precise for the intended audience, it hit a child's tentpoles of culture. Happy Meal toys, TV commercials, whatever spy gear peers brought in for show and tell. The films, especially the first one from 2001, were extravagant and ridiculous, silly futurist journeys with ridiculously high stakes. Growing up, Spy Kids, international super spies portrayed by Antonio Banderas and Carla Gugino, were every child's dream come true, complete with futuristic technology and stylish parents. Rodriguez is the director of Spy Kids, Armageddon, the fifth movie in the well-known franchise. It transports us back to the age of technology and espionage, where the threat of an unbeatable evil hangs over humanity. Terrence Tango and Nora Torres made sure their children, Tony and Patty, were unaware of the nature of the work they performed, even while they carried out the bloodiest missions. However, Tony and Patty were exceptionally intelligent for their age, and it was unlikely that their parents' secret would remain a secret for long. Now, let's see what kind of problems the family faces and if they ultimately succeed in saving the world. Due to the fact that Tony and Patty spent a significant amount of time playing video games on the internet, their parents, Terrence Tango and Nora Torres, established some stringent guidelines. Tony and Patty were permitted to play games for no more than a few hours during the day at a designated period. Tony continued to sneak out in the middle of the night and play games with his sister despite this. Patty was the type of person who thought that being honest in one's life was very important. Thus, she didn't enjoy it when they broke the rules. Tony, who consistently maintained that one should get their way by any means necessary, didn't think so. Patty tried to explain to him that although telling lies might have helped him in the short term, there would be consequences. Tony participated in a tournament run by a video game developer who made the game Hiscore. Tony received the game Hiscore, which hadn't been launched yet, installed on his computer as a reward for winning the tournament. Even though Tony had cheated to win the tournament, he was nevertheless delighted with the outcome. The kids decided to sneak out through the night to see how the game was going. Tony's father used to reset the password to prevent his children from playing any games after the designated times. However, Tony had discovered the password and had entered the game using it. However, the screen flickered as soon as the game began and the device shut down. Unaware of what was going on, the children fled straight to their bedroom in order to avoid being discovered by their parents. Ray the King Kingston, the game's designer, tricked Tony into entering the system in order to take the Armageddon code. Ray understood that if he could get his hands on the code, which OSS agents used to access any gadget, he would be able to take control of the entire globe and force people to do as he pleased. Terrence and Nora, on the other hand, were arguing over whether or not to remove the Armageddon code, as they both recognized that it would be harmful to the world if it ended up in the wrong hands. Terrence objected, but Nora knocked him out before deleting it. Ray, however, broke into the system and took the Armageddon code before she could act on it. Before long, havoc spread throughout the entire world, and half of the devices were running the game Hiscore. When Terrence regained consciousness, Hiscore, the game's character, launched a full-scale assault on their home. Although Terrence and Nora were able to get their children to the safe home, they were unable to flee and were apprehended by Ray King Kingston. Ray was only able to break into half of the gadgets in the world since Terrence had split the Armageddon code into two halves. Sent his men to kidnap the children and bring them to his hideout after realizing that the second half of the code was contained in the necklace that Patty was wearing. Meanwhile, Terrence revealed to Nora that he was the one who had generated the Armageddon code, but Tony, the young child, was unaware of it. Terrence stated that he had obtained a schematic for a weapon Vargos had been working on during the Fireball operation, in which they killed Vargos and destroyed his laboratory. Terrence knew he could use that blueprint to create a code that would allow them to hack into any kind of equipment if he could decipher it. However, Terrence was never able to fully comprehend it. However, one day, Tony entered his room and, perceiving it as a puzzle, he solved it. We learned that Ray Kingston was Vargo's son, until the OS team showed there and brutally murdered him. Ray Kingston thought his father was using his creations to try and improve the world. Patty was one of the people who thought Terrence and Nora could have avoided killing everyone. She truly explained to Terrence and Nora what they could have done to calm things down without hurting anyone, and they were a little surprised because it made sense and, shockingly, had never occurred to them. Following his father's passing, Ray came to feel that everyone on the planet wasn't deserving of kindness. Through hacking into their devices, he hoped to effect change by controlling them to do as he pleased. Their own daughter helped Terrence and Nora recognize that what they had thought of as their greatest success had actually been their worst failure. It was clear to Terrence, Nora, and even Tony that Patty was right when she said that being a spy didn't always need being dishonest. After arriving at Ray Kingston's hiding place, Tony and Patty picked up their parents and released them from the holding cell. However, Ray was already one step ahead of them, and before they could take action, he started the process of breaking into every person's gadget on Earth by using the Armageddon code chip. Tony realized he had to act quickly to stop the countdown before it was too late. He located the main system's storage location and made every effort to halt the countdown. However, he came to understand that the king had tricked him since he had inadvertently activated the mechanism. At that moment, the king appeared and informed them that they had been tricked, threatening to wreak disaster across the entire planet. When Ray Kingston departed the scene in Spy Kids, Patty came to the realization that they could save the world if they could get into the game and stop Ray. They only had to figure out a method to beat Ray, who they knew was in control of everything from within the game. The four of them entered the virtual world of Hiscore as Terrence and Nora sat on the VR pods facing their children. Every deadly antagonist in the gameverse, from Heck Knight to the King, faced the family. Patty had asked everyone to play fairly, even if some people used unscrupulous tactics. Although it appeared that the king would win in the end, Tony's integrity paid off, and he was granted an additional life, a kind of fair play prize that was not often granted to the participants. After Tony overcame Ray, Patty urged the OSS to send him back into the virtual world instead of arresting him, so he could grow into a better man. Ray was struck by the children's candor and kindness, and he came to the realization that he didn't need to use such harsh tactics in order to make a difference in the world. The following day, Devlin called the children to the OSS office and informed them that they were also being formally recruited as spies. Devlin pledged that he would alter the spy manual and refrain from instructing his agents to use unethical tactics. The spy family's story concluded happily, and it's likely that we will see them embarking on new missions and averting global disasters in the following sequel.